Hey guys, it's Bird, and today I would like to give you a brief review of my Cooper AT3 XLT tires that I've been running now for 2 years and just under 20,000 miles. So far, they've been absolutely great and I love them. They are 315/70 17s, which is roughly 34.5 inches, so not quite 35s. The 20,000 miles that they do have has been about 50-50 between off-road and on-road. This is not my daily driver, so I don't put a whole lot of road mileage on it. I did go on a overlanding adventure last year that took me about 7,000 miles round trip. Over those 7,000 miles, they have seen nearly every kind of terrain you can throw at them. I've been through mud, rocks, sand, and some deep water. And they have performed fantastic. Which leads me into a list of pros and cons that I have, because they do have some issues. So let me start off with the list of pros. First and foremost is how quiet they are. When I first put these on here, they were super quiet. I would say on par with the factory tires, hands down. I know some people are probably gonna say they're all terrains, man. I mean, it's kind of expected. It's not like a mud terrain tire. Sure, but me personally, I was impressed. Also, the noise I've noticed has increased slightly with mileage, which I guess could be expected. But for the most part, they're still fantastic. I got a buddy running mud terrains, and they're way quieter than those. Number two is the tread life. Out of 20,000 miles, I've only lost about 4/32 of an inch. Again, I realize that these are all-terrains, so that's more to be expected. But I was heavily considering getting the Discover STT Pros, and I ran into a guy the other day who had his on for about the same amount of time that I've had, 20,000 miles, and they were awful. They looked nearly bald. Number three is the fact that I have been through some really rough, sharp rocks and varying terrains and never had any sort of issue with punctures. I know that's not that often of a problem, but with the way these things are set up, the sidewalls, they are beefy, and I couldn't ask for better. There's probably only one con from an actual tire perspective, and that's the fact that these don't balance the greatest. I had to have these balanced by 2 different companies a total of 3 times to get them to balance out right. So I don't know if that's because I've got Steelies or because of these tires, but I had some guy at one of the local off-road shops say that these Coopers don't balance all that great. So that'd be the only con I have about the actual tire itself. Wait, I lied. There's one other one I thought of, and that is the fact that these are the most rock-hungry tires I've ever seen. They eat rocks and throw them like projectiles at everyone behind me. I've had my buddy behind me several times, and he has gotten nicks in his windshield at least 3 times. Outside of actual tire construction and longevity and that kind of thing, you have to also consider the pros and cons of how it reacts in different terrains. Absolutely terrible in mud. Let me stress that. It cannot do mud very well at all, at least not the thick stuff around here in the southeast. Nearly every time I have put this in mud, they have gotten stuck in some way, form, or fashion. Now, I did go riding at one of our local OHV parks, and it had been raining a lot, and that's some nasty clay mud, and it did okay. You know, I had aired down to about 15 PSI, and it was able to get through there pretty easily. So, I mean, it's mostly miss, but every now and again, you get lucky. When it comes to sand, they're fantastic. I live in Alabama, so on our overlanding trip, we went all the way out to California, and I got to drive on the beach some out there. It's the first time I ever tried it out on sand. It worked fantastic, and I was at full pressure, running like 40 pounds. I just got back from the Florida Jeep Jam recently, and I did it again down there and got to play on all the sand dunes, and it worked flawlessly. As far as rock crawling goes, I don't have a whole lot of experience. I mean, they're okay. I've had hit or miss. There's been a couple of obstacles I've gone up that's been super easy compared to other Jeeps I've been with. And then I've had other times that I couldn't get over the rocks to save my life. In fact, I've bent things. I slipped off the rock over and over again, and eventually I had to pull cable and pull myself over this thing. And really, it was a tiny little obstacle, and it was just either too slippery, they wouldn't grip well enough, or something. I don't know exactly what was going on. Maybe it's just my skill. Maybe it's because it's a manual transmission. I don't know. But they're pretty good. When it comes to creeks and river crossings, man, these things work like a boss. I haven't had any trouble with them whatsoever. One of the guys that goes riding with me, he had to put his Jeep into 4-wheel drive to get through something that I just trucked right through in 2-wheel drive, no problems whatsoever. So, you know, I love them. Maybe it's because they're a little bit wider footprint than he had, I don't know, but they've worked flawlessly in water so far. In the not too distant future, I plan on upgrading these to 37s, and I am going to probably go with the same tires, to be honest with you. I've gone back and forth. I've thought about getting the STT Pros instead, but with the longevity I've seen out of these, and it's a $2,000 investment, I'll probably stick with these. After all is said and done, I would definitely recommend these tires to anyone wanting something that's good all around, that's going to last a long time and give you pretty decent trail performance. If you liked this review, there's going to be more coming. I've got several things lined up I'm going to start putting out. And please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much.